So we're going to talk for a minute about timers, and we could spend a long time here, but we're going to try to be brief and give you just kind of the overview of how to use it as a visual support. So you can see an example of those sand timers that you can find in different, like there can be a 5-minute timer, 3 minutes. Usually they sell them in a pack like that. That's like 5 all the way down to 1. And students often enjoy using those. The thing you have to be careful about is them just taking them and flipping back and forth, right? Not letting them run out. But they also are quiet. So for students who are sensitive to noise, that can be a good option. We'll talk about the benefits of timers for just a second. They assist with running our zoning plan and with student schedules. So like I said, last month's training was on the zoning plan. If you're needing help with that and support with that, feel free to go back on our website and watch that one. We'll talk about student schedules as well coming up this year. And using a timer can be so helpful in helping us stay on track and stay on time. It provides a concrete ending to undesired activities. So if I really, really do not like reading time, I know that it's going to end at when that timer goes off, however long that is. So it gives us that concrete ending. It might ease the relinquishment of reinforcers. For a lot of students, that works really well. You have 2 minutes with Spider-Man or whatever it is, and when the timer goes off, it's time to put him in the box and put him away. But you can earn it again. Look, first we're going to work, then we're going to have Spider-Man. So just helping to with the giving back piece of that. And then showing the amount of time left before transitions. So it might be a transition inside the classroom. When the timer goes off, we're going to check our schedules and move to the next station. Or it might be a transition out of the classroom. When the timer goes off, it's time to wash our hands and go to lunch. So that can really help with students with that anxiety of what's going to happen and when is it happening? And do you ever have students who sit and say, when is lunch? When is lunch? When is lunch? When the timer goes off, it's lunch. Or when, looking at the visual of your schedule, then it's lunch. So those visual supports can be very helpful. We do need to teach using the timer, and we want to indicate what will happen when the timer goes off. So just verbally letting them know, but also if we're using our zoning plan and we have student schedules, they can see visually what's going to happen next. We can provide a reminder of the time remaining. There's 5 minutes left in this activity, or you have 1 minute left until the timer goes off. And if you're using one of those, I should have pointed out on the last slide, but it's my favorite thing. So I'm going to hold up my actual time timer. I love these things. It's called a time timer. You can buy them online in different sizes. This is a big one, but they go all the way down to like a little mini personal timer or a watch. Yes, it is on the watch. And the app is free. Since COVID, the app has been free on the App Store. So you can have it on your phone as well. And what I love about it is just watching the time. It goes like this, and you just watch the time elapse until it goes off. And my students it was kind of a visual, and it also provided a reminder of the time remaining, because my students would look, and when it got close, they're like, oh, the timer's about to go off. And they kind of gave themselves the reminder after a while once they were used to it. But that's just one option that you can use that's helpful. And we want to give the student, part of teaching is to give the student time to process and complete the next step. So when the timer goes off, we pause for a minute, give them time to think about it, think about what is happening next, and then as much as possible, allow them to do that on their own. If they're not following through, then we go back to that prompting hierarchy that Rebecca was talking about. And we might need to provide a prompt to make them successful with moving on.
I like that you pointed that out, because a lot of times in the hustle and bustle of a day and our desire to keep on the schedule, we don't always provide that time for processing. And we've got to mentally shut down this activity, see where we're supposed to go next, and move on. So I think that's a really good point, that we've got to give them time to think.
Well, I had to learn that one. It didn't come naturally. I'm so sure you're so surprised by that. But it really does. We need to pause and give our students time. You can see an example of a couple of other timers on the screen as well. I don't know about you, but I use my phone for a timer all the time. And it's just something that we use. It's a tool in our environment, in our society. A lot of people use it. So that's an appropriate one to use in the classroom as well. And then those little egg timers that come from Walmart or wherever can be helpful. You can use a digital timer. I'm sure you all have seen something like this, but just another example, little digital timer with stop and start on it. And then you've got the example of the watch as well.
If a student is not to the point where they're reading the clock and reading time, then you might want to go with one of the, like a time timer, because it makes that a little bit more accessible to them as they learn.
It's a really good point. So some tips and tricks. You do want to consider student needs, like students with sound sensitivity. A really loud timer, that timer has a really kind of shrill beep when it goes off, and that might not work for some students. I might need to consider something different in that case. Some timers can be distracting. Like I mentioned, those sand timers, or on the screen, you can see those little water timers with the bubbles. Those are a lot of fun, but they can be really distracting if I have one of those on my desk and I'm supposed to be getting something done. So we might need to consider that for some activities, that might not be the best timer to use.
Remember that timer that we used to get to put on the big smart board, and it was like a
Yes,
bomb that went
yes.
off, and the kids loved it.
Yes.
But like 3 or 4 minutes before the activity was over, everybody stopped and watched the screen waiting on the bomb to go off. So it was a good
Didn't work so
idea.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it was
There-
distracting.
There are also some visual timers you can get for your phone, like through the App Store, and I cannot remember the name of the one I'm thinking of. Jenny, do you know it? I'm sorry, Jenny's telling me I only have a few minutes left, so I better get moving. But you can get a visual timer for your phone, or your smart board, which I know some of you have used that in your classrooms, and that works well too. And then you can consider additional supports a student may need. Do they need a prompt? Do they need some level of prompting to get through that? And then setting alarms for classroom transitions works really well, also to keep us on track. It's a prompt for the adult.